With the sixth pick in the 2019 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Daniel Jones, quarterback, Duke. Daniel Jones.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
And he's been around the Mannings, but I think it was a big mistake. I really do. I think at that point, go defense. There are plenty of good defensive players on the board, or just don't go that quarterback.
Right. Surprised were you that the New York Giants with Daniel Jones at number 6?
I wouldn't say surprised as much as disappointed for Giants fans. I mean,
on April 25th of 2019, the New York Giants sent shockwaves through the NFL community by drafting Duke quarterback Daniel Jones, 6th overall in the first round of the NFL Draft. Obviously not a very well-received draft selection at the time. Now midway through his 6th year with the organization, and the first year of a hefty 4-year, $160 million contract. Let's take a look at what's going on in New York.
Welcome to NFL Live. We start with breaking news out of New York. The Giants are releasing quarterback Daniel Jones today. This comes just days after New York benched Jones for Tommy DeVito.
Huh? Whoa, whoa, whoa. What the actual hell happened here? From being paid a salary that at the time put him among the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, to asking for his own release a year into this albatross of a contract. This leads me, and so many others, to ask, what all went wrong? Well, I won't say Daniel Jones was anywhere close to being a good NFL quarterback, but I'm not going to argue that he was ever really put in that great of a position to succeed. Whether it was from a lack of talent surrounding him, mismanagement of assets from the organization, or having your own general manager display severe distrust in your abilities on a televised show for the whole world to see, Daniel Jones was never set up to succeed. According to the Nielsen Media Research Company, New York City is the largest sports market in the United States. But most of us just assumed it was either that or Los Angeles, right? So, what does that mean for players that are in the spotlight of the largest media market in the US? It's not the greatest experience. Throughout the years, it's been reported that star players, regardless of the sport, have ducked or avoided the bright lights of New York City in preference of going to practically any other sports market, while some others have willingly embraced it. In his introductory press conference back in 2014, New York Yankees starting pitcher Masahiro Tanaka, who had just been brought overseas after spending 7 seasons as a professional baseball player for the Japanese Nippon Baseball League, said this about the New York market. I've heard that New York can be harsh at times. I just wanted to put myself in this environment and see where I can go with my ability. So, what does this all have to do with Daniel Jones and his situation? Well, quite frankly, a lot. As we saw earlier, Jones's selection already created a lot of skeptics. Through the first 3 seasons of his career, he was not helping his case out much either. Having not played a full 16-game season coming into his 4th season, and more notably, having a very poor touchdown-to-interception ratio and quarterback rating that had worsened ever since his rookie season, Daniel Jones needed to prove himself come 2022. And he did. While not setting the league on fire with a high amount of passing touchdowns, only throwing for 15, Jones notably had the most passing yards in his career up to that point. But the most important part was that Jones cut his interceptions from 7 in 11 games to only 5 across the full 16-game season. Last of all was the fact that he was helping to lead the Giants to wins. That is right, the Giants, who many predicted to be cellar dwellers in the NFC East, went 9-7-1 in a tough conference that almost sent all 4 teams to the playoffs. Better yet, they went on to win their wildcard matchup versus the Minnesota Vikings, before ultimately falling to the Super Bowl participant Philadelphia Eagles in the next round. After playing the best football of his NFL career and leading New York to their first playoff success in almost a decade, the Giants went on to reward Daniel Jones with a 4-year, $160 million contract that at the time put him in the top 10 highest paid quarterbacks in the league. The issue was that he was not a top 10 quarterback by any means, and almost everyone knew it. Yes, Jones just had a good season for the Giants, but looking at his stats in comparison to other NFL quarterbacks at the time, Jones's performance puts him right near the middle to lower end of starters, somewhere between the 15th to 21st best quarterback in the whole league, and nowhere near deserving of that contract. And it really can't be argued that the Giants were forced into giving Jones this contract. Yes, he was just coming off his best season and was going to be a free agent at the end of the next season, but it wasn't absolutely needed to get a contract done right away. And it definitely was a mighty overpay when we look into what happened afterwards. 2023 was a disaster of a season for Jones, tearing his ACL just 6 games into the season. But it wasn't looking good in those 6 games, with Jones already throwing more interceptions than in the year prior, and most notably, being sacked 30 times in just those 6 games, which would have put him on track to destroy the previous record of 76 sacks taken by 10. The Giants floundered to a 1-5 start with him at the helm before he was eventually forced to rehab this injury. So that was rough. And while yes, Jones looked awful at times, it was becoming increasingly clear that the only talent the Giants had on offense was at running back with Saquon Barkley, and that their offensive line was going to let any quarterback perish behind them. Yet the Giants still managed to make things worse next season. Due to some financial concerns caused by a $40 million black hole in the budget, the Giants were forced to let running back Saquon Barkley hit free agency, leaving Jones with even less weapons to work with on offense. Furthermore, issues on the offensive line were exacerbated when the Giants refused to draft any offensive linemen and instead turned to cheap free agent signings to put together an offensive line for Jones to attempt to play quarterback behind. And we all know how this plays out. After throwing for only 8 touchdowns in 10 games and having to run for his life most of the time behind a weak offensive line, Jones was benched as the Giants limped out to a 2-8 record. Then the crapshoot really started. From being demoted all the way to 3rd-string quarterback one day, then 2 days later being seen playing defense for the offense to practice on, and then to asking for his release 1 day later, Daniel Jones was failed by the Giants organization. As I have shown, Jones might not have been the best quarterback, but he never truly was helped by his team. He never had a true great wide receiver to throw to outside of this season. His best offensive weapon was taken away from him just a year removed from making the playoffs, and he was throwing behind some of the historically worst offensive lines in history. Yet, because the New York Giants made the huge mistake of giving Jones an unnecessarily large contract when they didn't need to, almost everyone will exclusively remember Jones as the man who by all means stole millions of dollars from a professional sports organization and destroyed the hearts of that organization's fan base at the same time. Yet let me ask you, would you not have done the same? Thankfully, this might not be the last we hear of Daniel Jones, as he just recently signed with the Minnesota Vikings, which in my opinion is the perfect antithesis of the New York Giants. a much more stable and a much more quiet environment for Jones to hopefully revive his career in.